everybody. How you doing? This is DJ Billy X. I'm sitting here with Melly, and we're going to tell you who we are. We're just a couple people who believe in God. Probably always have. I've always had God in me. Have you, Melly? Yeah, you knew God was there your whole life. Pretty much the Ten Commandments and all that stuff. You know, you do something wrong, you feel guilty about it. That's, having God in you. You're a little kid, you take that extra piece of cake or that cookie you're not supposed to take or eat too much candy, you felt guilty. It's that simple. Well, me, I had a couple experiences in my life that reinforced my belief of God, like being pulled out of a well at 2.5 years old, and then living with that fact your whole life kind of made you feel special, like there was a higher force that protected me. And I think what really pulled me into God was when my brother, who was 17, I was 18, and he was in a coma, and they said he was going to die, and I felt guilty because I never told him that I loved him ever. Being a couple guys, hug, and kiss, and hold your brother if you're manly dudes. So long story short, he was he was in a coma from a brain aneurysm. He was partying too much. He was partying with doing cocaine, and it basically took the weak points in his body and exploited them and caused him to have an aneurysm. After the doctor checked him out, he said he had an overgrowth of veins around his main brain stem going in his brain, and that was also a problem he had throughout his whole life. He would be prone to blackouts, or basically look like he was staring into space when he wasn't. He was actually having a seizure. So, having all that guilt on me, I finally, after 90 days and the doctor swearing that the kid's dead and if they unplug him, he's, not going to make it. And my mom's hysterical saying that he's alive. She can talk to him. My mom's a God-fearing woman, always has been. Her philosophy in life, if you have nothing good to say, then don't say anything. She lived the Bible, basically. That's what she believed in God, and God was in control and everything, and this was just basically a farm for souls. The good ones get to go on, and the bad ones get to stay. So I prayed that God just please wake up my brother one time so I could tell him I love him before you take him. I wasn't asking for much. And I said, God, if you do that, I will tell everybody I meet that you're for real, that you're not a joke, that you will answer prayers. Now, being a guy that never prayed much, except maybe to forgive me for stealing a candy bar when I was a little kid, I didn't have much God experience. The only God experience I had was after our house burnt down at 3 years old. We went to the church at 3 in the morning, 20 degrees below zero, and I remember my father knocking on the door of the church down the street from our house and asked if we could stay the night until we had enough money to get a motel. And the guy said, go to the Salvation Army, this is not a refuge, and he jumped in his Mercedes and took off. So at that point I never went to church again after that. I kind of lost my faith in church because I always thought church was there to help poor people. But obviously it's just a place to have some dude read a book to you, which you could probably read yourself, maybe not understand it. But most of the churches that I have gone to, I didn't learn anything. The only times I did learn anything was when I searched online, and I found some people like Greg Laurie was probably the first one I got, and he taught me a lot about God. And then I hit up with Jonathan Shuttlesworth. He was incredible. I had no idea you could ask God for money. I thought that was, not even in the Bible. And then Joyce. Joyce, of course, is one of my favorites. Joyce Myers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's her name. She's really good. I watch her all the time. And I think and Prince, a guy named Prince, what's his name?
Joseph Prince.
Joseph Prince, he's really good. So I think just by watching these people, reading the Bible yourself, and really understanding that God is a real person, that he made us from his image. So being a scientific person, if you look at that in a scientific way, it is very possible. And that's what a lot of people don't do. They look into it as, like the Bible says, have faith and, blind faith, which is incredible to have. But a lot of us don't have that. And it's really hard to get it. But being saved and having a miracle, like, waking your brother up and having the chance to tell him that you love him. And God did that. 12 hours after I prayed, he woke up, and I had the chance to tell him I loved him. But he didn't just wake up, you know, me to get to tell him I loved him. That kid survived. I mean, he went from being totally brain dead, and he came back to life. It took him a little while to walk and talk and everything, but that kid was dead. He had half his brain chopped out. And if that's not a miracle, I don't know what is. Especially when two of the best doctors in the world, Dr. Stringer and I forget the other one, I think it was in 1976, 77, Lang City Hospital. You could look up the facts. It's true. This kid was brain dead, and he came back, and it was from my prayers. I know for a fact it was. And my deal with God was I would tell everybody I met that story, that God is for real. He's not a fictional character. The Bible's history. It's not, a child's book. And when we read that book, we don't look at it as history. We look at it as, like it's fairy tale. But it's got history in it. And all I can do is implore you to read that book. And if you don't understand it, find somebody who can explain it to you. Get one of these ministers that I just said. They'll explain it to you in plain English. Something me and my wife, hopefully we do for everybody, so that you can understand that God is for real, that he's going to give you everlasting life, says it in the Bible. He's going to give you a new heart, new body, a new home. And now, if you just look at that on the surface, it's hard to believe. What do you mean? Yeah, in other words, maybe he's got a new planet. Maybe he's going to rearrange your DNA that we're almost ready to solve ourselves, where they can just, or they're about to manipulate our DNA now that can make us live forever. And if you read the Bible, it says clearly in the Bible, he snipped it. And if you look under a microscope, you can see that DNA was snipped. It was clipped. It's not a clean break. It's not structurally sound. So we're going to explain that to you. And that's our show. And that's it. And hopefully, you guys get the fact that all I'm trying to tell you is God's real. Those little sins, they all matter, man. Everything you do has a ripple effect in the world. We're all connected, every one of us. Somebody does some harm, it ripples down like throwing a rock into a river. Okay, those ripples go on forever. If you throw it into the ocean, they'll go to China if it's a big enough rock. So let's get with it and start loving each other, learning the truth that God's real. Look around, man. There's places in this planet that could not have been built by man that are here today, that if you had the opportunity to look at these things, the facts are there. We choose not to see them. Hopefully we can make you see.
UFOs are real as God is in control. God says in the Bible that he will open up the sky, he will lift us up. He tells us do not fear, he owns the sky. Know for a fact God made everything and he owns these UFOs. They are not made in China by a guy named Joe. In God we trust. I do you? God made the planets. God made the sky. He made you after his own image. How can you question his powers of life?
Okay guys, you see these UFOs. They're pouncing in the ocean and they don't make a splash. That's underwater, and I do believe it's going about 40,000 miles an hour. You can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm going to tell you what we're going to prove. We're going to prove these spaceships are made out of gold. And then when gold is heated up to 1700 degrees, it becomes translucent and you can see through it. If you look inside the book of Enoch, it'll tell you, and also the book of the chapter of Ezekiel. We'll start taking pieces out of the Bible and we'll prove to you that God is basically a time traveler. He controls these UFOs. And the government will probably try to say it's some alien force and will probably try to lock us up in fear. But there's a reason. God says do not fear in many different ways over and over and over again. He says have faith, and also that a lot of other things in there, like he will open up the sky for you. And what do you think that means? I'll open up the skies for you. And I think in Ezekiel he said he was lifted up by the head, kind of like a Star Trek move if you think about it. So if you really read between the lines in the Bible, and we will dissect it and we're going to push it apart. And then we're going to direct you to other scientists and other places all over the world that prove that God has been coming back for years. And it's as simple as that. Now, why would I have all this knowledge or even want to put it together? Maybe because this is like your last shot. Maybe some people need evidence. Some people just can't live on blind faith. Some people want proof. You know, even people like me. I was saved by God many times. You know, pulled out of death, probably resurrected. You know, I mean, when I was pulled out of that well, I don't remember getting pulled out. I just remember falling into the well, grabbing onto a pipe, holding on, and next thing I know, I was in the back of a police car. Like it was a time warp there. It was a loss of time. So I either died, went unconscious inside the water, and let go of that pipe I was hanging onto, because I don't remember anybody lifting me out of that well. So there's other people out there that have the same story, or have the story of being in hell. And I know a couple people that, you know, had that story going to hell. And believe me, it was a real story. I mean, it scared the hell out of me. I had a friend of mine tell me, went right down in there, and she could smell the other people burning. And it was horrible. And the screams were all drowned out by each other. Your tears would, you know, as you cried, your tears would evaporate. It was that hot. So we're going to try to wake you people up. Enjoy the ride.